Hello. Fly fishing has lost several legends. Most recently, or very recently, we lost AK Best. So today I want to tie a pattern that I've seen him do, kind of in honor of him, but I'm sure I won't do it justice, but we'll give it a go. So I'm going to do this on a size 16 dry fly hook. Going to use a little CDL for its tail. I'll talk more about these, but I'm going to use the stem from that mallard feather. Calf tail for my post. And this is a Blue Dun India hackle that I picked up from the bargain bin. I'm going to put a little superfine dubbing around the thorax and hold it all together with some 8/0 thread. So we'll get the hook in the vise. We'll get the thread started. I leave a little room to remind me not to crowd the eye. In this case, it's not really a problem. So yeah, let's talk about this. So this is a quill-bodied fly. I'd seen several videos that AK liked to do quill-bodied flies. Um, back in the day, there weren't fly shops full of um, modern materials. There weren't online stores, and a lot of what they used, and um, they used what they had, right? So they were hunters and gatherers of sorts. So a lot of quills and quill bodies and calf tail. Um, I'll argue that the poly posts make a way better post. They don't absorb water, they float high, they're visible, they stay clean, they dry right off. But there's something to be said for using a little calf tail. So here I measured that out. I pulled out a lot of the longer fibers, um, tied it down, and cut it on a pretty steep angle and then wrap back over it. I'm going to build a little dam in front of it, use a couple of wraps to bunch it up and pull it back. So I can see a couple of long ones in there. It's not the most perfect post I've ever done, but calf tail's a little tricky. Calf body hair actually does a nicer job because the stuff I had was all the same length, but I didn't have any in white. I have some real nice blue or light blue calf tail or calf body hair, but I chose not to. And first, let me apologize about my voice. I'm a little under the weather today, so that's why I'm sitting in here making a video instead of being out on the stream. So I tied in a little bundle of those CDL fibers. And since that was from the hackle, I put a few extra in there because they're thinner than the stuff that they sell that's actual tailing material. So I'm going to get the tail fibers tied down, use a few more wraps to smooth things up, and park my thread just in front of the tail. This is a stripped quill. It was dyed green mallard flank feathers. And one side of the quill has a real nice light green and almost matches what I've seen AK tie on his flies. So I do my little crossover technique, the same thing I do for tying it a biot. And I'll wrap it back to where the post ended, or the fibers from the post ended, so I kind of smooth out the body there. And I'll come up front and throw in a half hitch or a one whip finish. I'm going to go ahead and tie in the hackles because they're short. I'm going to wrap around the post. Now, since that's that India hackle, um, I'm going to tie in two. They're pretty thin. They're actually not great quality, but they're a really cool color, and they have that little dark barring in the middle. So I fight this a little bit, trying to tie those hackles in with the shiny side out. So with the shiny side out, the hope is that while you wrap the hackle fibers point up, mostly, and then you don't trap so many when you wrap and tie off. So there we snipped off the excess, the butts of those hackles, and we'll put a couple of wraps there, whip finish to keep things from falling apart. And I'm going to get ready to wrap that biot. Now some folks soak these biots or put a little, I heard hair conditioner on them. Um, this didn't break. I've done a couple of these and they didn't crack while I wrapped them, so I didn't bother doing any of that. And I'm going to wrap it into a little super glue. There's a couple different ways you can finish these. Um, Wrapping into super glue is one of the easier ways. Then there's the maybe coat it with some head cement afterwards. And then I've seen Catskill tires where they'll actually do cross wraps with their thread, tying thread. They'll come back over toward the tail, then cross hatch back toward the front, and then coat it with head cement. That makes a pretty durable body as well. So um, I didn't jump through any of those hoops. I think the super glue is going to be enough for this case or this fly. So there, I did leave some gaps. That little bit of that olive thread kind of is showing through. Um, I don't think it hurts. I don't think you can make these perfect. My underbody wasn't perfect. So it's going to look like segments. So there I'm changing hands and tightening up my thread so I can get a couple of wraps there. Hold down the end of that hackle stem, calling it a hackle stem, but basically it's that flank feather stem. And I'm going to snip it off as close as possible without nicking my thread. This is something I didn't see AK do. So I'm going to go ahead and make a more pronounced thorax and use a little superfine dubbing here. In the sample that I watched, AK took his quill body all the way to the eye of the hook, and his post was tied very close up there, and um, basically the head of his fly was more or less thread. But we all do things a little differently, and this is how I wanted to or like to do these. So we're going to finish up that thorax. I like how that looks, and I'm going to um, tilt the hook in the vise. Makes it easier to wrap the hackles. And we're going to build a little post here. So a couple more thread wraps and make a nice base to wrap those hackles into. And I'm also going to use my little trick of adding a drop of super glue. That'll stiffen the post and it'll kind of hold those hackles in place. So I don't have to be concerned about them slipping off or pulling loose later. So I'm going to wrap them one at a time. And I want to leave a little space between the wraps so that I have room to wrap the second hackle. So I'll just stop there after about 3 turns. And we'll get a hold of that hackle and start and work our way down. Again, trying not to trap fibers. You could zigzag or pull hackles up between each wrap or something, but this seemed to go well enough. And now I'm going to weave my thread through and try not to trap too many fibers with the thread as well. So I got about 3 wraps there, a couple over each of the tips. And I'm going to do my little maneuver with the half hitch tool. Come up and put a half hitch around the eye of the hook, just behind the eye of the hook. You could finish right there around the post. I was doing that for a while. I do it on some of these parachute posts. Depends on the size and what I'm doing. But in this case, I think if I do a couple of half hitches and then a double half hitch or two, get them tied down behind the eye of the hook. That's a nice solid knot. Nothing comes loose. I'll hit it with a little head cement, and so we'll come in. We'll slice our thread, And then we have just a little preening, and this one's about done. So I noticed at this point though, it'd be kind of cool. You could leave those little hackle tips in place and this would look kind of like a cripple. But AK didn't do that, so I didn't do that. And we didn't do too bad. We trapped down a couple fibers we can snip off. And I'm really fighting that autofocus on this new. I film these with an iPhone and it just has a mind of its own. So I'm sorry, that body and these little fibers right now look pretty blurry, but I think I catch on and clear it up here in a second. And we'll come back in with just a little head cement behind the eye of the hook and use the rest of it at the under the hackles where we wrapped around the post. So we'll do our rotate the fly once, give you one last good look at it, and I hope this helps you out. And if you want to learn more about me, look me up on Amazon. And until next time, be safe.